Why a hunger strike?
We tried our best. We went to the MP, we sent lots of the emails to the MPs, MLAs, to the college, and all of them.
When did when the credit
India at this point has a foreign policy that involves sending its low-skill males abroad, and Canada was a willing participant in it.
International students from India are protesting in Alberta after being denied post-graduation work permits. Some have even gone on a hunger strike in what some Canadians are describing as a complete meltdown. But the real story here is not about those Indian students and their protest. It's about the Carney and Trudeau Liberals, their policies, as well as the Indian government's agenda. And yes, there is also a connection to Tim Hortons that you need to know about. And once you see all these pieces fit together, you'll understand why this could be one of the biggest political scandals in Canadian history. I'm Elie Cantin-Nantel. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to react to clips from these protests, and then I'm going to show you what is actually going on behind the scenes and why this is a bigger story than it first appears. But first, be sure you are subscribed. I'm trying to get to 25,000 subscribers. Like and hype the video, hit the notification bell, and consider getting a paid channel membership for less than $5 a month, as I don't take a dime in subsidies from the federal government.
Journalism commentary 1 year anniversary.
I don't believe journalism being funded by the government is the solution.
You have to rebuild the foundation. You have to retell the stories.
Market conservative
Other news that actually matters.
I hence wanted to ask. Do you think they should answer their questions, especially if they're politically charged with? Part 1, the Indian protest.
Sitting for the hunger strike until MLA or MP will come to us.
Around 100 international students are demonstrating here in Northeast Calgary over what they call unfair rejections for postgraduate work permits, and they're calling on the government to act. Why a hunger strike?
We tried our best. We went to the MP, we sent lots of the emails to the MPs, MLAs, to the college, and all of them, but we didn't got any positive outcome from them.
Lovepreet Kaur is one of 6 people swearing off food for the time being, but the overwhelming majority of those in attendance all have a similar story of a permit being rejected.
if there is any kind of confusion, they might listen us. They might reconsider our files because we came here after paying huge amount of fees and taxes.
The federal government introduced changes to eligibility in late 2024, months after Sikander Singh had begun his administrative professional studies at Portage College. He says at the time of admission, it was his understanding that he would be eligible for a permit.
I was waiting for the best hope. I did everything in the schedule. I go to the school. I have a proper attendance. I have a proper assignments. I have proper transcripts.
So reading here from Juno News, international students from India are protesting in Calgary after being denied post-graduation work permits, while roughly 1,000 former students have been protesting for days outside the offices of Immigration and Refugees and Citizenship Canada. 5 to 6 graduates have escalated the demonstration to a round-the-clock hunger strike. So basically, they are telling the Canadian government and therefore Canadians, the Canadian taxpayers, let us stay here or we're going to starve ourselves, is what they're saying. The students claim that they had enrolled in this program when it appeared to qualify for a post-graduation work permit and paid around $32,000 in tuition, plus they then studied, of course. Well, they claim they studied. We know that there's been stories of international students from India not showing up to class, but that is for another day. Now let's react to some clips that are going around the internet from these protests. Let's start with this clip from my friend Kian Bexty, who went to the students to talk to them. Here's how that went.
But what do you say to people who say Canada's too full, we need to slow down the immigration?
Okay, that is good question. Like Canada is too full. Okay, you guys are right.
What happened? IRC recently just updated their website without informing or announcing publicly. When did they? When did the when did the basically when the credit Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
So
I
if
am a
you
little
do
bit-
have to
no,
go,
no,
if
no,
you
no,
have,
I will explain.
I'm sorry, but I didn't even understand a word of that. They can't even speak proper English. Sorry, guys, but it's hard for me to have sympathy for you if you can't even speak our language and you demand a right to work here. I don't speak the languages that they speak in India. I wouldn't go there and expect them to give me a job. This next one was posted by Canada Proud. Let's have a look.
Giving us guarantee like you are eligible for the PGWP. Do you have the emails with you? Who is answerable to this? CIOD, Campbell, or the Potas? Scholars is saying that they can't go with the legal action. Is it clear to everyone?
Trying to contact IRCC on the behalf of students, but you didn't get any reply, right?
That's correct.
Today is 20 July, 7-day pause, still we have nothing.
Same
So
question.
the thing is, we have
Same.
limited days. If we have more days, we still will accept that, okay, college is taking time. But the thing is, students don't have any time. And what is the best way to contact Lekla Beach Potage College? Like, I don't think so. It's not a cup of tea to bring 400 people, 500 kilometers. So it's a lot expensive.
Again, I'm sorry, but I can't understand a thing they're saying, apart from the fact that it just screams off entitlement. We deserve the right to stay here. Guess what? You don't have a right to stay here. Like, seriously, what do you have to offer to the Canadian economy, especially if you don't speak English? This is not a racist question. It's a very simple question. You can't speak English, and you're an entitled individual. And honestly, I don't want entitled people in this country. There are so many immigrants. They came here with absolutely nothing. They built really successful businesses out of nothing. And these people want to come here and be entitled. Now, these students have been saying that they're doing a hunger strike, but based on this clip, is there really a hunger strike going on? Let's have a look. So as you can see, lots of food. Doesn't look like a hunger strike to me. And while it was reported that the hunger strike was paused. Oh, well, I guess it's a little harder to do than what some people realize. In Edmonton, meanwhile, the students, well, they braced some bad weather to be able to protest. Let's have a look at this. Part 2, the Indian government's agenda. Now, there are international students from all over the world in Canada, and yet when we hear about a story about international students, they're almost always from India. And when you look at the countries of origin for study permits in Canada in 2023, the biggest one by far was India. In fact, in 2023, 50% of all international students were from that one country, India. And according to Alex Brown, who works for the National Citizens Coalition and Without Diminishment, somebody who I interviewed earlier this year to talk about this very issue, there's a reason for this. Watch.
India has stated, its foreign ministers have stated, talked to professors or those who study India's economy, that they have their version of a labor force problem is that they have too many people and that they have too many young people who are not graduating into the middle class, who are not on a pathway to sort of upward social mobility. And so they have a glut of young, low-skill laborers, particularly young men. And their solution to their problem is to send them far afield, is to send them to countries like Canada. They openly say this. They've told us this on our news. India at this point has a foreign policy that involves sending its low-skill males abroad. And Canada was a willing participant in it.
And by the way, we do have Indian government officials talking about this. Here's India's High Commissioner to Canada on the CBC advocating for Canada, which is a country of 40 million people, to take in 60 million Indians. Watch.
You have things which we need. We have things which you need. I mean, for example, simple examples. We have, you're a country of, you're the second largest country in the world with a 40 million population, 40 million population. You need at least about 100 million population. You need people to man many of your resources. We have the capacity, we have the intellect, we have the talent, we have the resources.
Yeah, I don't think Canada needs 60 million Indians. I really don't. And by the way, India, because it's a large country with over 1 billion people, there are a lot of people in this country, including a lot of very smart people who have come here over the years and have become actual doctors and engineers. It is why Indian Americans in the US are a very, very, very financially successful ethnic group. But in any country, you also have people that are not the best. And in the case of the Indian students who've been coming to Canada, to quote a particular individual who became president of the United States, they're not sending their best. Watch.
And let it be highlighted here that many of those early foreign student protests during COVID were over them getting failing grades for doing not good work at even non-legitimate institutions. So that tells you the some of the low quality we invited in. They'd have these protests out front saying, "How dare you give me a failing grade?" It's like, well, do better work. Like the entitlement there is unbelievable. Like it's an insult to the country, and it's an insult to all our great immigrants who came the right way.
Yeah, never forget that you had international students from India that were protesting failing grades. Now, I'm not saying that the students that I showed you in Alberta did this, but this was something that did happen. We let people into our country to attend these not very impressive colleges, and they couldn't even pass the courses there. Objectively, what net benefit does that bring to our country? None, but it does help the Indian government, which is why we've been seeing what we've been seeing. Part 3, Canada's complicity. We can talk all we want about the students, the Indian government, but at the end of the day, the biggest culprit here was the Canadian government, and more specifically, the Justin Trudeau Liberal government, and now the Mark Carney Liberal government, which is the same government no matter what the CBC says. And here's why. There was an explosion in international students in Canada in the last few years. I mean, check out this graph, for example, highlighting how much it increased. And the reason why it increased was because there was no limit on how many international students Canada could bring in. So colleges realized that this was very, very lucrative. So they started letting a bunch in. And then you started to see the rise of so-called diploma mill colleges that were described as, quote unquote, using students for ATMs. And that's not all. This was not just a gift to the colleges and their executives. It was also a gift for the mega multinational corporation, for the corporate elite. And this increase of international students was also great for Tim Hortons, in my opinion, because these students, on top of being tuition revenue for colleges, were also cheap labor. So Tim Hortons and other corporations had access to all of this new imported cheap labor from the third world that they could choose to hire instead of hiring Canadians. Now, I'm not accusing them of doing anything. I'm just saying this was a fact that you had all of this extra cheap labor from the third world that businesses could choose to hire instead of Canadian high school students, as well as seniors or other people who needed a part-time job. And let's not forget the complicity of Justin Trudeau here, because it was his government that lifted a previous 20-hour cap on work that these students could do, allowing someone who was supposed to be in Canada to study being allowed to instead work full-time hours, including at places like Tim Hortons. Michelle Rempel-Garner, who's one of my favorite conservative MPs, she wrote a great piece exposing the Liberals' complicity in the international student disaster. Over the past decade, the Liberal government has done everything possible to incentivize foreign nationals to come to Canada on temporary resident visas with the intention of never having to leave. Worse still, rather than signaling that those who plan to overstay will face consequences, it has signaled that visa overstays and systemic abuses are effectively welcomed. For example, the Liberals' 2019 to 2024 international education strategy spent nearly $150 million to advertise a framing which promoted a study-work-stay continuum for foreign students in spite of the temporary nature of their invitation to Canada. A Liberal federal immigration minister went as far as to use the following quote in a formal news release, quote, "Our message to international students and graduate is simple. We don't just want you to study here. We want you to stay here." And make no mistake, this is continuing under Mark Carney, continuing to read from Michelle Rempel-Garner. The federal government still advertises foreign study permits as a viable pathway to permanent residency. So we can talk all we want about how entitled or ridiculous some of these students are, but at the end of the day, it's not their fault. It's the fault of the liberals. They're the ones who allowed this mess to happen. This was not something that we were seeing under Stephen Harper and the Conservatives. This is not something you're seeing in the US under the Trump administration. This is a made in Canada by liberals political catastrophe that we're dealing with. And that's who the blame, the frustrations need to be put against. And I don't like just pointing fingers all the time and saying it's the liberals' fault for partisan purposes, for clout, for clicks. But in this case, factually, again, on this show, we do facts. We don't do conspiracy theories. We don't do rumors. We do facts. There's a fact that the liberals are responsible for this problem. And if you thought all of this wasn't bad enough, it was found that the Liberal Immigration Department is not keeping up with demand for student visa probes. Out of 150,000 cases flagged, only 4,000 investigations were launched. I mean, my goodness. Part 4, the solution. The solution is rather simple. Some may not like it, but it is the following. The students have to go back home. They have to go back to where they came from. And that's not just my opinion. It's also the opinion of Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
Our view is that if you come here as an international student and your visa expires and you don't have permanent residency, you need to go home.
Unfortunately, our country's full. We have a housing crisis. We have a jobs crisis. Young people can't find jobs. I mean, the CNE in Toronto, they received 50,000 applications for 5,000 positions. And youth are saying it's almost impossible to find a summer job or a job in general. I know this myself as a young person. So, unfortunately, Canada is not at a place objectively right now where it can accept all these students. It's time for the government to put the Canadian taxpayers first. Nothing personal. I'm sure some of these students are lovely people, but we just don't have room for them. There's no demand. So I hope you enjoyed your time in Canada. But now it is time for you to go and take in what you learned and apply it to your country to try to improve your country. Anyways, this sums up today's show. That's my thoughts on the international students. I want to know what you think, so put your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, hit the notification bell, and we will see you again very soon. Thank you so much, and God bless.